So, Alex, a lot of the things you say are just totally contradictions and they don't make any sense. For instance, you said, your parents were married and they were absolutely miserable. I mean, well, that's nice, but they can get married again, right? They don't have to be married to the person that they're miserable with. They could get remarried to a person that they're not miserable with and still enjoy all of those happiness index indicators.
They
So
don't
it's
want
like,
to though. They're
well,
happy to
well,
see
well,
you.
but whether they want to or not, it doesn't lead any credence to your argument. You're like, well, marriage isn't for everybody because my parents were miserable. It's like, well, but we have this cool thing called divorce. They get divorced. You can still remarry to a person you're not miserable to. That's not a discounting of marriage. That's just silly.
But why does everyone need to get married?
Well, I already gave you all of the indexes, and it's not that everybody needs to get married. See, even that is kind of a hyper fallacy, right? I'm not saying everybody needs to get married. I'm just saying that on the general, for almost every male who gets married, the happiness levels drastically increase, and we do need to have stable family units for the purposes of rearing the next generation. If you want to keep on, the tradition of pickup artistry to, the next generation to help people with confidence or whatever. Don't you want them to grow up in the most stable environment possible with the greatest amount of happiness, least amount of disease, least amount of drug addiction? Isn't that the best thing we can do for kids?
Okay, so let me respond to that. So I haven't seen the data, but I'll just grant you and assume that what you're saying is correct. You seem like a fairly genuine person, so I'm assuming you're not misusing data. So let's just assume that you're right, and happiness index, says that whatever, that being if you're married, on average, you're happier. Okay, that's a macro. There's some people for whom marriage is just not right. Some people are not capable of monogamy, me being one of them, right? And for me, hang on, let me finish. Okay. For someone like me and a whole bunch of other guys to commit to a marriage, to a monogamous marriage, and just have to stifle our sexual urges or cheat on our wife is a recipe for disaster. So I think a key part of it is knowing yourself. I never tell people not to get married. If people want to get married, hang on. If people want to get married and they take,
but you must be misspeaking. You must be, because you keep on saying there's some men who can't be monogamous. That's bullshit. What do you mean they can't be monogamous? What do you mean you can't? I can't not fuck a chick. What are you talking about?
Because they are not sexually satisfied having sex with one woman.
Well, that's not a can't statement, though. You're saying there's men who can't be monogamous. Why can't they be monogamous?
Well, that's like forcing a gay guy to have sex with a woman. Like, that's not going to work.
How is it force?
Because
how are you forcing anybody to do anything?
They have urges to have sex with other women. For some men, right, they're more or less capable of monogamy. They can be sexually satisfied with their wife. A lot of men can't. A lot of men need to have sexual variety.
No, they don't need it. What do you mean need? I don't understand. Like, you made this analogy in your opening. You're like, it's like food poisoning with well, you need to eat or you'll die, but you're not going to die from not banging random skanks, Alex. Like, no man's going to die because they can't ejaculate into a vagina.
No, but you will be miserable. Most people will be miserable if you're abstinent. I mean, I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah, but it seems if we're looking at the miserable versus happiness index, they're the most happy when they're monogamous and not having sex with tons of skanks.
Right, but no one's saying you have to have sex with tons of skanks. I'm arguing against abstinence, right? You can be non-abstinent with your girlfriend. You can be non-abstinent with your wife. It doesn't matter, right? I'm just arguing. So let's not get those two things confused. I'm talking about, I think abstinence is going to make a lot of men miserable, right? And that's why
and I'm fine. I'm fine diving right into that. But I need you to first recant this statement because it's obviously not true.
What statement?
A man every man can be abstinent. If you say there's men who can't be, that's just absurd, isn't it?
Okay, it depends how we define can. If you mean
what's the negative connotation? Are they going to die if they don't fuck a lot of?
No, they're just going to be miserable, and some of them will commit suicide
because they can't have sex with tons of different women.
Dude, you keep going back to tons of different women. Abstinence doesn't have to be you can be non-abstinent with one woman.
Okay, so fair enough.
It's not like a straw man argument. I'm not saying everyone has to have sex with a ton of different women.
Okay.
I do think men need to have sex. Like, are you arguing against that? You're saying that men are going to be equally happy not having sex?
Yeah, well, that's what the data shows. That if you're in a monogamous relationship, your index for all of those metrics that you would consider good are higher.
Wait, hang on.
How do you argue against that?
We're conflating two different things. Let's focus on abstinence, and then we can talk about monogamy versus non-monogamy. So I'm talking about abstinence right now. So are you saying that a man who's going to be abstinent for most of his adult life is going to be as happy as a man who has a normal, happy sex life? Whether that is having sex with one girl or tons of girls.
Wait. It depends. Yes, they can be. It depends on what they're doing it for. Like maybe they're entering into a monastic life. Maybe they're the most happy if they're abstinent. However, I still think when I say abstinence, we're talking about saving yourself for marriage, right? Saving yourself for marriage. Now, do I think that men will be much happier doing that? Well, of course. They're not going to have children out of wedlock. They're not going to get STDs. They're not going to have any of these plaguing problems that society has. Why wouldn't they want to save themselves for marriage?
Because
why wouldn't you want to produce a society that was based around the largest quantity of happiness possible for people?
Well, hang on. Let's not get the macro confused with the micro, right? You can argue on a macro level, it makes sense for everyone to get married, but that's different than the micro, right? On a macro level, it makes sense for everyone to, I don't know, volunteer. But that doesn't mean I'm going to go volunteer and you're going to go volunteer.
Well,
right? So
you don't want to make prescriptions based on outliers.
I'm not going to change what makes me happy just to do something that's overall better for society. Like if I don't want to get married, I'm not going to be like, oh, well, it's better for society if I get married. So let me just completely squash my own free will and just go do something that I don't want to do, right? That goes against like basically innate human free will.
But Alex, it wouldn't be better for society if it wasn't also better for you. You can't have tons of miserable people running around in society and still say that society isn't miserable, right? It is better for you. It is better for the individual to be abstinent until marriage and then enter into a monogamous marriage. The data's all there to show that. You have one
study that shows that people who are married on average are happier than people who are not married. That does not prove your point at all. So
no. Wait, hang on. You're right. That by itself wouldn't, but we can walk it forward. Do you think that men who get STDs are happier or sadder than men who don't get STDs?
Well, pretty much every single STD besides HIV can be treated within like 2 days. So.
Oh yeah, genital herpes, genital warts. I mean, you're going to get rid of those in 2 days, Alex?
Genital herpes is a glorified skin condition. So no one, if you actually follow the studies on that, it's actually not a big deal.
Do you have genital herpes?
No, I don't have genital herpes.
Okay, good. Well, I mean, the thing is, do you want it? Do you want it because it's just a skin condition and no big deal?
It is a skin condition.
Well, so it's no big deal, right? So you wouldn't mind getting it? It's like no problem for you or what? That's just absurd.
Well, I'm not going to go out of my way to get it, but if I got it, I wouldn't really care. But the point is,
what do you mean you wouldn't care?
No, I wouldn't, because
you would raw dog a chick who had genital herpes and just like you wouldn't care?
Well, I would be more worried about getting her pregnant. That's a more realistic concern, which can be heavily mitigated through getting a vasectomy. If you're really worried about it, get a vasectomy, or just use condoms. There's common sense solutions to this.
Yeah, but if you get a vasectomy, then the man you are at 19 is not going to be the man that you are at 30. And you realize that reversing a vasectomy is not easy. It's very expensive. And it doesn't work nearly as much as the vasectomy itself does. It's hard to reverse a vasectomy. It's not as nearly as easy as when they snip it. So, then moving into the
common sense solutions, science. That's the good thing about science. We've solved a lot of these problems. You can freeze your sperm, and you have your sperm just in the small case that your vasectomy can be reversed. Or if you want to take
expensive, Alex.
Okay. I mean, yeah, like I think.
I mean, you want to go through this mass expense so that you can hump random skanks? It's just insane.
So you keep using the word random skanks, and that's a straw man argument, because I'm not saying you have to hump random skanks. You can just have sex with your girlfriend, right? It's up to you who you want to have sex with.
In a monogamous relationship?
I'm not, if you want, but I'm not going to shame men for wanting to do something different than what I want to do sexually, right? That's the thing. Like, I respect your right to be married. That's your choice you made. And if you're happy with it, that's cool. But I don't see the point of shaming men who don't want to make the same choices as you.
Well, I think that there is a point.
All the cases we have of marriages leading to men getting annihilated and destroyed.
Alex, there's a huge point here. You just got done telling me live on this broadcast, well, genital herpes is no big deal. It's just a skin. Hang on. It's just a skin condition, right? Yeah. So it's like, imagine the fucking message that sends if there was like a 17 or 19 or even 21, 23-year-old, very limited self-control. They're like, no big deal. we can hump these disease riddled women, and if you get it, yeah, the cure 2 days, no big. I mean, you just downplayed the entire thing, other than HIV, right? Everything else, you're like,
HIV is
no
very
big deal.
serious. Getting a girl pregnant is very serious. Herpes, not that serious. Everything else can be cured very easily. But I'm not saying you should have sex without protection. I personally wear protection all the time. I think you should because you can get a girl pregnant, which in my opinion is the most significant risk you face as a man, right? But the solution to that is to wear condoms. It's pretty easy and straightforward. Condoms,
yeah, but condoms aren't effective against things like, well, they are, but not to a large degree against like genital warts and genital herpes. Those are things that, and by the way, condoms break often. We know this. You've had sex with lots of women. You telling me you never had a condom break? Come on, lie to me, right?
No,
tell me you never had a condom break.
No, I've had condom breaks,
right?
But that's what the morning after pill is for.
Yeah, but that's the morning after pill is not going to protect your junk from genital warts, Alex.
Okay, if you're that, so this comes into what I was saying earlier. Your how much risk tolerance you're willing to take. So if you are really uncomfortable taking any kind of risk when it comes to sexual health, then before you start having sex with a girl, this is something that some people do. Go to a clinic with her. You guys both get tested, and then you know that neither one of you has STDs. Like, it just comes down to your risk tolerance. Like, some people, like, look, dude, me, I don't drive at 2 a.m. on New Year's, right? Because I'm not comfortable with the high risk of getting hit by a drunk driver. But I drive pretty much any other time. Now, I realize that every time I get out of my house, I get in my car, I have a theoretical risk that is much more risky than having sex, of dying from a car crash, right?
This is such bullshit because you pretend like
taking that risk. And that's
but the effects aren't just yours. The effects aren't just yours, Alex. So you're like, oh, okay. If you want to have sex with a chick who has genital herpes, no big deal, right? That's the risk. That's the risk you're willing to take. No one is
saying that, dude.
But what about the outlying problem of the fact that sometimes these things lie dormant in people for years and years and years? They don't even know that they have them. They're spreading them through the entire community. Nobody has any idea about it for a long time. Genital warts, genital herpes can lie dormant. HIV can lie dormant for many, many years. You don't even know
all these things can be tested for. All these things can be tested for. Go to a clinic.
They can be tested for, and if you don't have X rates or test fails or any number of different things, you can still be spreading these diseases inside your own local communities. Now it affects everybody. It's not just your risk assessment. What about my risk assessment?
Well, you're not fucking me, dude. So I don't understand why. If you're not comfortable taking risks, then don't have sex with girls. That's your choice.
It's not as simple as that, Alex. There could be all kinds of situations. What if you had, like, let's say, a wife who had an infidelity issue? She brings the disease home to you. The pickup artist is the guy who's banging her, right? No moral man's going to bang a person's wife, right?
The problem is your wife. It's not the pickup artist.
It's your wife, but it becomes your problem when she brings the disease home from the pickup artist. And by the way, what do you think a moral man fucks another man's wife?
I mean, that's a whole different topic. We can get into it.
But no, it's all part of the same topic.
Do I think a moral man? It comes down to your own ethics and morals. I have fucked other dudes' wives. Yeah, so I've done it. Am I like super fucking gun ho and happy about it? Probably not. Am I still gonna do it? Like, is it something I do nowadays? Probably not, right? But yeah, I fucked other dudes' wives.
Well, why wouldn't you do it now?
Because I have a girlfriend now.
Yeah, but if you didn't have a girlfriend, would you still fuck other men's wives?
Yeah, probably. I don't know.
And you think that that's okay and justified?
Dude, I think the fault lies with the wife, not with the guy that's fucking her.